Let's go live to Dominic Kane in Berlin. So tell us where we are with this right now and the reasons why they've decided to delay this signing here, Dominic.
Effectively, the EU needed the key players, the countries with the largest populations, but also with the largest industries, particularly agriculture industries, to be on the same hymn sheet, as it were, to agree that this was in their best interests to push this through. And they could not get that. Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, effectively having to say today, look, my domestic concerns, the domestic farmers that I have to deal with, are really not reassured by what has emerged, by the texts that have been talked about. There was some sort of compromise that was pushed through on Wednesday. It wasn't sufficient for her. She then spoke to the Brazilian president and said, look, please, can I have more time? He acceded to that request. So the optimists in Brussels are saying, well, maybe there'll be a date in mid-January that this can be pushed through because it's so important. But then there are those who are opposed to this deal for all sorts of reasons, who will take heart from this and who will push their concerns even further. Those protesting farmers in Brussels, but also environmental campaigners who say this is not a good deal. I spoke to an environmental campaigner for an NGO here in Berlin a few days ago and said, what do you dislike about this deal so much? She said, this is a 20th century deal for 21st century problems. It does not solve the problems which it's supposed to solve, and it creates new ones. So lots of different views here. But to be clear, the German government really wanted this to go through. It identifies the more than $60 billion worth of trade that flows from the EU to Mercosur. Certainly that was the case last year. Why? Because 40% of that is made up of the sorts of machinery, transport equipment and appliances that Germany provides. That's why Germany was so keen for this. But the Italians and the French have managed to postpone it.
Well, Dominic, as you said, the NGOs, the person you were talking to, said it was a deal for a bygone age. And I guess you've got to also then look at how important, particularly the farming lobbies are in places like France and Italy.
Right. That is exactly the point at issue here, isn't it? You have, as it were, on one side of the argument, countries with very large farming concerns, shall we say, who look at the idea of potentially being undercut by cheaper imports of the sorts of products that they put into the market. And then you weigh that on the other side, you have industrial concerns, as I was saying, here in Germany and elsewhere, who see this as a real win-win. Let's be clear about this. 26 years in the deliberations. When I asked a managing director of an important trade federation here in Berlin last week, what do you make of the possibility of it finally going through? He said, at last. This is the sort of thing that should have happened a long time ago. We want free trade deals like this with other parts of the world too. So there's lots of competing emotions and feelings here. The point is that will it come in January? That's a very serious question for the Merz government, which has put so much emphasis on getting this deal through.
Dominic, thank you very much. Dominic Kane there joining us from Berlin.
Don't miss out on the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.